Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
This is Alicia DeBrell from Insight Media. Today I get to interview cal.jumper. cal.jumper is a certified professional inspector trained by the International Association of Certified Home Inspectors and the Champion School of Real Estate. Cal has the knowledge and experience to spot problems with materials, installation, and workmanship. He follows a comprehensive standard of practice, which ensures that you receive a detailed and accurate home inspection. He also abides by a strict code of ethics, which puts your interests first and protects your rights as a consumer. Today, Cal is going to educate us on what a home inspection is, why you need one, and how the process works. So, without further ado, I want to welcome cal.jumper to the show. Hi, Cal. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Alicia. How are you?
I'm doing good. So let's get right into it. So tell me a little bit about yourself and where you come from.
Well, I'm originally from Tennessee. I'm a veteran. I spent 28 years in the Marine Corps, retired in 2008. I've worked in a couple of different fields since the Marine Corps. I worked in the defense industry, working with a naval aviation enterprise, a business way of thinking about aviation maintenance and operations. And then I worked in oil and gas as a management and safety consultant when I moved to Texas and worked out in the oil field, helping oil field employees and supervisors communicate and work through their problems and processes. And got interested in real estate and real estate inspections about a year and a half ago, and went through the classwork to applied instruction, where we went to the field, the laboratory instruction, and actually looked at the various things that make up a home and met the prerequisites to take my tests and get licensed as a real estate inspector for real estate transactions here in Texas. It's a license issued by the Texas Real Estate Commission, and it really means that you have met certain standards to be able to go out and inspect and protect consumers as they buy or sell a home.
So who do you help and how do you help them?
Well, typically it's the home buyer is the primary client. Occasionally you'll have sellers that want to have their home inspected before they put it on the market. The license is required whenever there's going to be a real estate transaction. There's many times you could do an inspection and help a client understand the physical plant that is a house or a commercial building. But typically it's the buyer that you're working for, trying to help them understand what it is that they're getting into as they buy a home.
Do I really need an inspector, or can I do one myself?
I think you need an inspector, and most people don't have the background to understand all of the components that make up a home and make up a house. I know from experience that, when I bought my first home back in the early 80s, I had no idea what I was getting into. It would have been nice to have somebody that understood the makeup of the house and how it was put together, explain some of the things to me that I really didn't know about. Using a home inspector is really a great way to get an education on what you can expect after you buy the home.
And what are so I know that you've got a couple of certifications, but where are there qualifications? Do you have to have certifications to be an inspector?
Yes, in Texas you have to have a license, and that means that you've met certain educational requirements. You've taken the classes, you've got the experience to be able to adequately inspect a home, and that's all part of getting that license. There are other certifications that you can get for extras around a home. For example, irrigation systems. That's not part of a typical home inspection, but many homes have sprinkler systems, and that's an extra certification that you can get, and I've done that. Pools, spas, things like that. That's also extra, and requires certification and extra education and training, and I've done that as well. So trying to meet those extras that a homeowner might have or need to have inspected, or extraneous to the home inspection.
So why would somebody buying a house need an inspection?
Well, most people buy a house for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with the physical makeup of the house. They love the location, they love the architecture, they love the layout of the house. They like the schools, they like the town. There's many reasons to buy a house, and most people really don't look at what is the physical makeup of that house, and they really don't have the expertise to look at everything. They might be comfortable with the cosmetic look of the house, but how old is the AC equipment? They may not be able to tell if the roof is needing any repairs. They may not be able to tell if there are structural issues with the foundation, and those are the kinds of things a home inspector will do for them, and hopefully help them be comfortable with what they're buying. Every time you buy a house, you also buy the responsibilities that go along with that house. And the responsibilities include the maintenance and upkeep, and you really want to know what your baseline is when you get into it. What can you expect in the next few years? And a good home inspector, and this is my goal, is to make the buyer comfortable with the house that they're buying. It's not to find things that scare them off of the house. It's simply to make them comfortable with what it is that they're getting into.
Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, so if somebody's selling a house, how would they need an inspection?
It's not as common for people to do that, but there are a lot of reasons. One really good reason why a seller might want to have their house inspected. First, it gives them a baseline for where their house is as they put it on the market, and they know what the buyer's inspector will probably find ahead of time. A very good marketing tool is the inspection report that they get from the inspector if they're selling a house, and they can address those issues that they want to address ahead of time, and not under the pressure of a closing date and having to get things done in a short period of time. It can save them a lot of money. It can also be a great marketing tool if when a potential buyer comes in, they show them the inspection report, show them what they fixed, that they're ready to be flexible and get the house sold.
I like the fact that using the inspection as a marketing tool. That's great. That's good stuff right there. It totally makes sense, because I would think too, like if I'm looking at a house to buy it and I already know everything's good, so really I could totally see that relieving a lot of stress and definitely being a really good tool for marketing.
Well, you're right about that. It sure helps the buyer feel comfortable with what they're buying when the seller brings a report out to them. But I still think it's a good idea for the buyer to get their own inspection report, because no two inspectors are exactly alike. And even though we try to inspect to the same standard, the buyer's inspector is his or her representative. And, that inspector works for the buyer. So they've got the buyer's best interest in mind, just like the seller's inspector had the seller's best interest in mind. So it's always good to get that third-party look for yourself before you, complete the deal. Definitely.
So what would be are there any other scenarios or any other reasons why somebody would need an inspection?
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of reasons why someone might need an inspection. Let me just give you a little bit of background. The license that we hold is tied to a real estate transaction. Either the buyer that's in a transaction or a seller who has an intent to sell. That's what the license is for. There are many other reasons when you might want to have an inspector or somebody knowledgeable come in and look at your house. The first one that comes to mind is if you've bought a new build house and directly from the builder. They typically have a 1-year warranty on the house, and anything that goes wrong within that year, they'll fix. Well, It's always a good idea to have an inspector come in at about the 11-month mark and take a good look around and look to see if there are any structural issues that have developed over the past year. Look to see if the roof is performing as it's supposed to. And an inspector is going to look in places that the typical homeowner might not. And he can call those things out, and then you can have the builder come back in and fix them in the warranty period at no cost. So it's always a good idea to do that. Many people who build a house like to have phase inspections done. And there are several times when an inspector might come in and inspect for the buyer as the builder is building a house. After the foundation's laid, you could actually do a pre-foundation to make sure that the plumbing and stuff is laid in right, that they've got the correct moisture barriers in before they pour the concrete. Stuff like that is important over the lifetime of a house, but the only time you can look at it is when they're doing construction. You can do it post-foundation pour if you want to. The one that I think is the most critical is the Pre Drywall Inspection. When the house is pretty much in place, the framing's in, the wiring is in for the most part, the plumbing is in, the ductwork is in, hopefully the HVAC has been installed, and an inspector can come in and look at that, look at the insulation, look at the framing, look at the roof, and be able to give a good assessment for where that builder is and if they're actually delivering what they promised to deliver to the buyer. And then following that, once the drywall and the paint and the floor coverings and everything has been completed, it's a good idea to have the full inspection done, just as you would if you were buying a house from another party. And those are the principal reasons when you might want to have an inspector come in. But I would submit that anytime you do a major repair or renovation, it's always a good idea to have a third party come in and look at it, unless you feel comfortable looking at that work yourself. And I'll give you a great example. Here in our local area, San Antonio, we had some big storms last spring and April, and there was a lot of hail damage to roofs. I've had two neighbors that have had roofs improperly repaired, and I've helped them deal with their roofer and get the work corrected before they paid the roofer, the money for the job. But a lot of that is, it would be nice if you could trust everybody, but one of an old saying that I learned in the Marine Corps many years ago was expect what you inspect. So it's always good to have somebody come in and put a third set of eyes on work that you've had done at the house, especially if it's a major repair.
Yeah, that was just saying that totally makes sense. I totally agree. Especially when you got those big purchase tickets, priced items that you have, are major in your house. So definitely. That actually kind of brings me to the next question. So what can be covered under an inspection? Actually, two questions. What's typically covered on a traditional inspection, and then what are the options that you could have? Well,
typically, the inspector comes in and he follows the TREC guidelines. He's going to look at the foundation and has to make an assessment of the foundation, whether it's working as intended, whether there have been signs of settlement, which typically is the case, but it's still working as intended, or maybe the foundation's not supporting the structure, and at that point, the inspector would recommend evaluation by a structural engineer, which is going to start getting fairly expensive. But most homes, the foundations are good, but that's one of the most important things an inspector will look at and help the home buyer be comfortable with. You look at the grading around the house to ensure that water flows away from the house as opposed to flowing in towards the house. You look at the roof covering. You go in the attic, look at the roof structures, insulation, things like that. You inspect the walls, interior and exterior, look for cracks. Floors, same thing. You look at all of the parts of the house that open and close, doors and windows, make sure that they are working as intended. You take a look at the electrical system, and inspectors are not electricians, but they're trained. We are trained to look at the basic electrical system and evaluate it. in a residential home and find out if there are any problems that might require an electrician to come in and look at it. We look at the panels, the fuse boxes, so to speak, circuit breaker boxes, the service entry. And if we see problems, then we recommend that an electrician come out and repair and evaluate the system. We look at the heating and air conditioning, and it's a visual inspection. We don't have special equipment to hook up to a HVAC. We always, at least I recommend that homeowners get yearly servicing from a qualified HVAC technician. But we do a visual inspection. We check to make sure that it's cooling as it's supposed to, and that the heating elements work. And then we look at plumbing, the visual parts of the plumbing. We check the pressure that's coming into the house to ensure it's between 40 and 80 psi. Many people don't know that plumbing appliances, fixtures are all really warranted to about 80 psi by the manufacturers. That's kind of a standard. And anything over that, you're going to have problems with your faucets, your plumbing fixtures over time. It's just extra pressure on those systems, and there are ways you can mitigate it, and we will recommend those ways. But most public water supplies come in somewhere between 40 and 80 psi. Occasionally, you'll find municipalities where it's very high, or subdivisions where it's extremely high, and there will be pressure reduction valves that can be placed on the system out near the water meter that will bring things back into normal. Those are the kinds of things we look at. We also look at the appliances, make sure that they work as they're supposed to. Turn on all the knobs and heating elements and things like that for your stove, your disposal, your dishwasher, and just make sure they work. An additional service that I provide is called recall check. I take down the model and serial number of each appliance, and I submit it to a database. And that database will tell me and produce a report that the client will get if there are any warranty recalls that are out there. And recalls, because of, it's a national system. If there's a recall on an appliance, it's because there's a safety issue with that appliance. And about 1 in 4 homes will find an appliance that has had a recall on it. Nobody ever fills out those warranty cards that you get when you buy an appliance and sends them in. So they don't know that there's been a recall put out on their appliance. But we do that as an added incentive or extra for our clients at no extra charge. And the follow-on to that is monthly, the client will get a newsletter from Recall Check. It's called Recall Track, and it'll have a couple of suggestions that the client might want to look at. It's pretty good information, but it will also have a link so that if they buy a new stove or buy a new dishwasher, they can submit that serial number, model number, and it will tell them if there's any warranty issues with that appliance. And it's not a one-time deal. The database is continuously updated, and if a recall comes out 6 months from now on an appliance that you've submitted, you'll get notified in that monthly newsletter. But those are the kinds of things we look at in a house. The extras that you can have inspected, but there will be additional costs. Are your sprinkler system, the irrigation system, pools and spas. Those are the big ones. Some homes have outbuildings that people want inspected. Again, that's going to be an additional inspection. But for the most part, the extras are the ones that we hit the most are the irrigation system and pools and spas.
Wow, that sounds like a really long process. How long does it typically take?
It takes, for a small home that is not very complicated, maybe only one heating and air conditioning system, it will take at least 2 to 2.5 hours to do the inspection. I have been in homes that were large and had extras where I've spent 5 hours in the home. So it's a pretty involved process. And then I like to ensure that the client is there, and I will spend as much time as I need to with the client, making sure they are comfortable with anything that I found in the home.
So that was one of my questions that I was going to ask: is can somebody be there while you're doing an inspection?
Yeah, of course. I recommend the client be there. As a matter of fact, I don't like to do inspections without the client there because I can't be sure that they really understand everything that I'm finding. And it's also a great time for the client to really get a chance to look at the house. When you're buying a home, you go to an open house, you may visit it with a real estate agent. You don't really spend a lot of time in a home. If a client comes with me and goes through the inspection, they're able to take the time to really look at that house and understand, what it is they like about it. And they also, it's a good time for me to understand what their concerns are so that I can allay any fears or help them understand what the maintenance requirements might be, so that they're comfortable and walk into the purchase knowing exactly what it's going to mean to them.
So now that we are, that you've already done the inspection, so now I would assume you're doing some kind of report. Is there just one report, or is there like a report based on different things? And how long does that process typically take, and how does that work?
Well, a home inspector will provide one report, and that report is TREC requires us to get it out within 3 days. I guarantee that I get it out within 24 hours. So, I will turn that report pretty quickly. It's a digital format. We can all print out the reports if the client wants that, but most people now work on email, and the reports typically are digital. They include pictures of any discrepancies, and sometimes the pictures aren't of discrepancies; they're simply for information. So ensure the client, knows where to find certain things that they might not have known before the inspection. But it's a digital report. There are several different kinds of inspections that someone might need for a home. One that is required for, say, a VA loan is a wood-destroying insect inspection, and that's a pest control company comes out. It's a different certification, but that's the report that is required for a VA loan. Most lenders don't require a home inspection because the home inspection report really it's for the buyer and for the buyer to use in negotiations with the seller. But the VA does require wood-destroying insect, or better known as a termite inspection, and that's separate. But that's something that I can coordinate for the client if they need it.
And how long so you said about 24 hours, like does that add on more time, or so your report's done in 24 hours, but then if they need an inspection, an insect, you call it insect report?
Yeah, the formal term for it's the wood-destroying insect report, but most people know it as a termite inspection. And it's done concurrently. When I coordinate it, typically the inspector will come out when I'm at the home, and I use a couple of companies here in town, but that I've developed a relationship with, and I know do a good quality inspection. And that report it's not necessarily something that's required immediately. It's not part of the negotiation. It's required for closing the termite inspection if it's a VA loan. So there's plenty of time to get that turned around.
So is it possible for a home to fail an inspection?
I wouldn't think of it as a pass or fail. Every home is going to have issues. I inspected a new home yesterday, and some of the electrical outlets weren't up to code. And we are not code inspectors, but we do inspect to the current standards that code inspectors use. And that was a brand new home. There were issues with the way the roof was flashed. All these things can be fixed, and that's what's important for people to understand is that anything that an inspector finds can be fixed. So there's not really a pass or fail. It's simply more of a getting the buyer or the seller to a comfort level with what they are buying, and so they understand the level of maintenance that they might have to apply after they purchase the home, or negotiate with a seller to fix before they purchase the home. But it's not a pass or fail standard.
So it's more of an education of what you're walking into and, being able to make an educated decision. Is this something I want to deal with for the next 5 to 10 years or forever, or if it's something that you want to get fixed prior, like that kind of situation instead of pass or fail, correct?
Exactly. And I'll tell you, my favorite clients are first-time home buyers because they walk into it very little understanding of what a home is going to mean to them, and the responsibilities that they're going to have as a homeowner. And I really like talking them through the elements of the home that they're going to need to understand, and so that they're not surprised 5 years down the road. If they're buying an older home and it's got a 20-year-old water heater in it, it may be working fine now, but water heaters don't last much longer than 20 years, so they need to understand that they will probably be buying a water heater before they sell the home if they keep it for several years. That's the kind of thing you try to educate people to so that they're comfortable and happy with what they're buying.
So if you had one piece of advice that you would give, a home buyer or somebody involved in a real estate transaction, what would it be?
Well, I would, that's a tough one. One piece of advice. I would encourage them to educate themselves as much as possible on what they were buying. And part of that is to have a home inspection done. There's no law that requires you to have a home inspection done. Most real estate agents want the buyers and the sellers, perhaps, to have the inspection done so that they understand what it is that they are buying. And that's the best piece of advice I can give is you need to do everything you can to understand what it is you're buying. I mean, you don't buy a home because you like the air conditioning system or the doors open and close well. You buy a home for a lot of other reasons. You like the neighborhood. You love the look of the home. You like the neighbors. You like the school system. There's lots of reasons to buy a home that have nothing to do with the physical plan of the home, but that physical plant that is your home, your house, is what you live with for as long as you're in that house. And it's just, I think it's very important to understand those things before you buy, and that's what I like to. That's what I feel is my service. The service I provide is that I make a homeowner understand and make them comfortable with what it is they're buying.
Oh, that's actually very well put. Well, okay, so my last question would be, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for your services, how do they go about doing that?
Well, I have a website. It's fairly new. It's jumperhomeinspections.com. You can do it that way. My phone number is 985-707-5947. Call me directly. My email is cal.jumper@gmail.com. That's cal.jumper@gmail.com. Any of those ways comes directly to me, and that's pretty much the easiest, most direct way to get hold of me.
Nice. Well, Cal, I really want to, thank you for your time. Everything that you were educating us on as far as what a home inspection is and what's all involved in it was really, really helpful for anybody that is involved in a real estate transaction. So I appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you, Alicia. I very much appreciate the chance to be on your show and to provide some answers to your questions.
No, definitely. All right, guys. Well, you've heard it from Cal Jumper from Jumper Home Inspections. This is Alicia DeBrell from Insight Media. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.